This is Tyrese Halliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
What is up, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, and it is a beautiful Tuesday morning. Hope you all are having a great start to your week, and Facci and I are uber excited because we finally got time to sit down and go through the entirety of the Indiana Pacers schedule and predict each game, whether it would be a win or a loss. So, Facci, how are you, man? This was a tough exercise.
This was tricky because it's hard to get a read on this team. Before, you could say, like, last year, it felt like, okay, you got Halliburton, you got everybody back, like, Mathurin's healthy, like, okay, you know what, we're going to take a step forward. So it felt natural to have this team, knocking on the door of 50 wins. We talked about it off air. I had them last year at 49 wins. You said that you had them at 50, so, like, we were right there. And now it's like we could make a prediction on this roster, but, like, things could go in many directions. For all we know, maybe the Pacers overperform. Maybe they underperform. You can never account for any injuries, knock on wood. So you just hope for the best. But I'm very curious to see where we both land because you and I have not spoken about our predictions on where we think this Pacers team could end up.
I don't even know what you think about the schedule because the schedule came out when you couldn't record. I put something up to kind of briefly go through some of the home and road stretches, things like that. But honestly, I think this is what I saw on Twitter was actually the fewest games traveled or the fewest miles traveled this season. The Pacers are one of the top teams. So it's pretty interesting. And I think they're one of the teams that has like the fewest back-to-backs. So they only have 10 back-to-backs this season, which doesn't seem like a lot. Now I feel like some of the back-to-backs are kind of brutal when looking at them, but some weren't that bad. But like there's like a really long road stretch here.
There is. It's going to be
like a 6-game road stretch, including the trade deadline, or excuse me, the All-Star break. But the travel there is not that much. It's very close in proximity. So I'm not overly concerned about that, but I just felt like this was what are we supposed to expect with this team without having Halliburton and Turner? Like, it's just that's what made it hard for me, but I tried to think optimistic when I was making my prediction.
Yeah, I think for some of the back-to-backs, like the NBA did a good job when like the Pacers play like the Knicks and then the Brooklyn Nets, or they play the Lakers and then the Clippers. Like those are very, very short distances where like there's no travel at all needed on those nights. Like, so I think that helps. But when you mentioned back-to-backs, I saw something like, man, I can't remember what the number is, but like I think the 76ers have, it's either like 14 or 16 back-to-backs. And it would be natural to say, should it be 14 or 15 or this? But I can't remember. It's either 14 or 16. And like, come on, we know Joel Embiid can't play back-to-back. So it's like that is brutal. So when you mention that the Pacers have like the fewest at like 10, that's pretty favorable because in the past, back-to-backs used to be, we're showing some of our age right now, but like it used to be a lot more common. So I think that the league has done a good job of avoiding the whole like 3 games in 4 nights or anything of that, 4 games in 5 nights. Like there used to be some crazy stretches on the schedule that was making it really tough. I think now like these schedules are a little bit more favorable, but like the Pacers have like chunks where they're on the road for like 3-4 straight games. You mentioned 6. I got times like there's another 5-game road trip. So there are definitely chunks here and there where it's road heavy. I think even to end the season, that's going to be something that's going to be, a little bit I guess not too bad, but either way, the road games come in bunches. I would say.
They definitely come in bunches this year. It's just a little different, but there's some that are like here, at home, and then away, then at home, then away, at home, then away. It's like okay, we're just going back and forth a lot too. Some it's just kind of random, but it'll all play out the way it's supposed to play out. And of course, the month of December is always a little bit tricky because you do have 2 games missing from the schedule that will not be added until later. Once the NBA Cup is completed and they know what teams will have to play versus who moving forward. So let's jump right into it here, Facci. We'll start with the month of October. The home opener, the Pacers take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Is that a win or a loss for you?
I think it's a win. I'll tell you why. Thunder are going to be on a back-to-back start, okay? So, it's like, all right, you know what? The Thunder still going to be a really good team. They are running it back. I don't even know if they've added anybody new. But what I will say is like there's going to be something about that game for the Pacers at home that has them fired up to just say, like, you know what, Tyrese, no Miles, it doesn't matter. Like, let's go out there, let's give them our best punch. We've been waiting for this.
Yeah, I see two scenarios. I see one, the Pacers just get blown out on their home court for the home opener.
Very possible too. It is.
Or they shock the world and stun them in Game 8 of the NBA Finals. So I'm going to go with the Stone Cold Stunner. They're going to shock the world.
Okay.
I have OKC losing at Indianapolis for that first game. So there we go. Pacers want to know, both you and I. Let's keep it moving here. 2 days later, they're playing at Memphis. Got a win or a loss on the road.
I got to win. I don't really know what to expect about this Memphis team. You know, I think that right now traded Desmond Bane. You're running it back. I don't know. Ty Jerome's their big addition. I don't really know if they know which direction they're going in. I think the Pacers actually start the regular season 2-0.
Yeah, I agree. I have them winning in Memphis, and then they have a back-to-back against the Minnesota Timberwolves after that. Do you have that as a win or a loss?
I got it as a loss.
Okay, we're in lockstep right now.
2-1, Minnesota, good team. I think for the Pacers, hey, we ain't going to win all of them, but we are going to win some of them. I'll tell you that.
All right, and then 3 days later, they're playing the Dallas Mavericks on the road. Do you have that as a win or a loss?
We won't have Miles Turner there, who always kills, the Dallas Mavericks, but I think we still get it done. I think that the combination right now of no Kyrie Irving over there, like Dallas still trying to kind of figure it out. Cooper Flag still his first few games in there. I think the Pacers get it done. They move to 3-1.
Facci, you and I must have been cheating off each other's papers because I too have them beating the Dallas Mavericks, which is interesting because they do have 3 days off. I'll be surprised if they actually fly down to Dallas. I think they'll fly home after Minnesota, come home, and then fly out for Dallas a day later because they have 2 days off in between games. So that would be kind of what I expect them to do, and I think that will help them. I also think that, like you mentioned, like Dallas, they've just kind of had their number, it feels like, recently. And Ben Mathurin has been a problem for the Mavericks. So I feel like that's always a game where he plays well. So after they play Dallas, they're going to come home, close out the month of October on Halloween, first NBA Cup game against the Atlanta Hawks. Do they shock the Hawks or do they get rocked by the Hawks?
I'd love to say that they shock them, but it might get a little spooky on Halloween. I think the Hawks might take this one, unfortunately.
They might or they will?
They will.
Okay, I agree. I have them finishing the first month of October 3-2. We both have the exact same record. All right, let's see if we just are in lockstep the whole time. Versus the Golden State Warriors. After that Hawks game, second night of a back-to-back. Pacers beat the Warriors or lose?
I got a loss on the second night of a back-to-back. So I don't know what you got, but I got the Pacers now at this point 3-3. But we'll calculate the records after the month.
All right, Facci. We finally got one different.
All right.
I think they're going to beat the Golden State Warriors at home.
Okay. Hey, they very well could. But we'll find out on that. Very next game, we have the Pacers still at home versus the Milwaukee Bucks. This is Turner coming back to Indiana.
Who, number 3?
Number 3. That's what they call him. The grass guy.
Grass guy. Yeah. I got the Pacers winning. The Pacers are going to smoke the Bucks in this game. What do you have?
Big old W for the Pacers. I think the Pacers win this one. They take down the Bucks.
All right, let's keep it moving. The next game is 2 days later against the Brooklyn Nets. You got a win or a loss?
I got to win. Look, it's hard for me to say that the Brooklyn Nets are going to beat the Pacers at any point in time. This Brooklyn roster stinks. I think that the Pacers take this one and they rack up a little bit of a winning streak. I guess you would have them on a 3-game winning streak. I got them on a 2-game winning streak.
All right, now things get really tough as they head out west for a road trip. They're starting things off in Denver. Win or a loss?
Loss. I think the Nuggets were one of the teams that took a big step forward. I love their offseason.
Yeah, me too.
Anytime they got Jokic, they always got a really, really good chance.
I would agree with that. And then you have a second night of a back-to-back after playing at altitude. You have to travel out to Golden State and play them. What do you got there? Win or a loss?
I got a loss. That's setting it up to be a little bit hard. I know I already have the Pacers losing to Golden State, early, but I think this is just a tough recipe for Indiana.
Yeah, I had them losing back-to-back games against Denver and Golden State, which is very tough. And then they'll be able to get a day off and then travel to play Utah on the road. Do you think they beat the Jazz or lose to the Jazz?
You can't convince me this Pacers team losing the Jazz. I think the Jazz are just, I don't know when they're going to be ready to win, but it ain't going to be on that date against the Pacers.
Yeah, November 11th, I believe. I believe
11th.
That's Veterans Day. So,
well, hey, let's we support the troops and we support these Indiana Pacers. All right, so let's get a win in their honor.
All right. Then the next game to kind of conclude that 4-game road trip, the Phoenix Suns at Phoenix, win or loss.
I think they're going to beat Phoenix. I think Phoenix is a team right now. It's a little bit tough to figure out. Like there's a scenario that Jalen Green might just wreck this whole entire team. Like I think that you're going from Kevin Durant to Jalen Green. That's a bit of an unknown. So I got the Pacers with a win.
I have the Pacers winning that game as well. So they go 2-2 on the road trip. They're heading back home for 1 game against the Toronto Raptors. Win or loss, Foch?
One game is all we need. That's a win for the Pacers right there.
All right. Well, I actually have a loss because I feel like every time you see a team come back from a long road trip and have that one random game at home, they always struggle. And I don't know what Toronto's schedule is. We haven't really looked at other teams' schedules as we kind of made ours. So I have them losing to Toronto, which is a team they also struggled with last year. So I think it could be one of those matchups where maybe the Raptors get off to a better start early on. They have a lot of wings. RJ Barrett, obviously, was very good last year against Pacers. Brandon Ingram's always been pretty solid against the Pacers. They've had issues guarding him. Scotty Barnes, like they're just long. So I don't know. I think that could be problematic in terms of matchup wise. But then they got to travel and play Detroit 2 days later on the 17th of November. What do you think?
This one stings because it's my birthday and I got the Pacers losing to Detroit. That hurts. I remember a couple years ago when the Pistons were terrible. They beat the Pacers on my birthday, but I do think that this is going to be a good Pistons team looking to take a step forward that looks at the Pacers as like, we want to be you.
Yeah.
We want to take the same type of climb that you took, and why can't we? Fortunately, I think the Pistons take this one on my birthday.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Pistons are a better team this season specifically, so I have the Pacers losing on the road to Detroit. Now they're coming back home to play the Charlotte Hornets. You have a win or a loss there?
I have a win right over there. I almost read it. I thought it was the wrong team, for instance. The Charlotte Hornets. I got to win. Look, I don't know when they're going to be ready to like take that next step forward. I think their off season wasn't like bad, but like it's definitely wasn't good. Like I just think that like you're the Hornets, and until like we see them really become like a winning franchise, it's just one of those that you'll put them on paper, and I pick the Pacers every single time.
All right, Facci. Well, if you don't remember, 10 games ago, the Pacers had their first NBA Cup game, and now they finally get another NBA Cup game because the league decided, hey, let's have one at the end of October. Let's have it on Halloween, and then let's take 3 weeks away from the NBA Cup and then bring it right back in full force on the 21st of November. The Pacers are on the road against the Eastern Conference. I wouldn't say champions because that's the Pacers, but this was the leader of the Eastern Conference last year in the regular season, the Cleveland Cavaliers. You got the Pacers winning this NBA Cup game or losing?
Fortunately, I don't. I got them losing. I think that Cleveland's going to have that bad taste in their mouth, based off of, what the Pacers did to them. I think that this Cavs team, like, if this ain't the year for them, it's never going to be the year. So I think I got the Cavs winning, and it hurts me to say the Pacers would be 0-2 in the Cup at this point.
The Cup, man, it is not looking good for the Pacers after the start. I agree with you. I have a loss as well. In Cleveland, I could make the case that they could win the Atlanta game, potentially lose the Dallas game. Switch those. Maybe you feel like, hey, the Pacers can go 3-1 in the Cup, whatever. But at this point, I agree with you. I have them at 0-2. Just kind of feels like that makes a lot of sense, too, based on how the schedule is laid out. Now, let's keep it moving here. They have a game in between their next 2 NBA Cup games. They're playing Detroit at home on the 24th. Win or loss?
Fortunately, I got a loss. I do. And, yeah. I mean, hey, maybe you got a win over here. I love to be wrong. It was hard for me to kind of pick the game or two that maybe we could take from Detroit. But right now, early in the season, I think that Detroit takes this one.
I think the Pacers win this because they're going to have 2 days off in between games. So I think that does help. A little bit more time to prep. They see what they did wrong in the last game. They come back with a little bit more revenge because it's only been a week later. I think they're going to beat Detroit at home on the 24th. And then they got to travel to play the Toronto Raptors for their third NBA Cup game. Do you have a win or a loss there?
I got to win.
Okay.
They took down Toronto, this time around. I think I had them winning both games against Toronto. You had them losing the first one. So, look, Brandon Ingram, we have yet to see him as a Toronto Raptor. There's a chance that maybe he's a really good fit there, but I think the Pacers are still good enough to be able to take this win.
All right, I have them beating the Toronto Raptors in that NBA Cup game as well. And now we're going to travel to Washington. Actually, we're going to travel back home. It's a home game against the Washington Wizards for their final NBA Cup game. So the 2 Cup games you're getting at home are the Hawks and the Wizards. Very lackluster in terms of opponent, but What do you think, Foch? Do they get their second NBA Cup win?
I think they do. I think they go 2-2 in the cup. They take down the Wizards. Now this Wizards team should still have veterans like Chris Middleton and CJ McCollum by then, but I still think that they're not going to be good enough to be able to, get past the Pacers in the cup game.
Yeah, a lot of games in the month of November. We have one left here because I have
This
to
is
beat the
back-to-back.
Wizards as well.
Mhm.
Second night of a back-to-back. They're at home, though, but they're playing the Chicago Bulls. Win or a loss?
I got a loss, and I think it's just one of those where could you beat the Bulls? Sure. But I think it's like the second night of a back-to-back like this. Like the Bulls aren't like, they're not terrible by any means. They got enough on their team where they could easily be a play-in team, once again. But I think in this scenario, they beat the Pacers on the second night of a back-to-back to end the month.
Yeah, I too, unfortunately, have the Pacers losing that game to the Chicago Bulls. So, Fachi, that'll put us at 15 games for the month of November. Did you have an overall record for that month?
I did. I had them at 8-7. So therefore, overall, through October and November, I have the Pacers at 11-9.
Okay, I am one game ahead of you. I have them 9-6 with a 12-8 record heading into the month of December, where things get very interesting here because they've got some tough opponents in the month of December. And let's dive right into it. They just played 2 games at home against Washington, Chicago. They're going to continue keep playing at home. But Fachi, this is going to get tough because they got the Cleveland Cavaliers coming in.
It's hard for me to look at this team right now, knowing that I'm a little bit unsure and saying we could beat a team that expects to win the East. And I just couldn't do it right here. I think the Pacers dropped this game of Cleveland.
Okay, I have them losing to the Cavaliers as well. And then, of course, they play the Denver Nuggets 2 nights after that. On the 3rd of December, do you have the Pacers winning or losing that game to the Nuggets?
I have them losing. There's just something about that Nuggets team that I'm just like, man, they know who they are. They're a veteran team. Like I think the guys that they've brought in feel like, hey, like you got Bruce Brown back, you got Cam Johnson in there. Like I feel like this is a good team with like players or Tim Hardaway Jr. They added like this is like good role players or solid players around Jokic, which I think is going to make them a scary team. I got Denver winning.
Okay, so me and you both agree we have 3 losses in a row, Chicago, Cleveland, and Denver. Now, moving forward, they play the Bulls on the road. Do they get revenge in the losing streak?
That they do, and it's going to be a cold dish in Chicago. So I think they're serving up a cold dish of revenge. They take down the Bulls.
I would agree with you on that one. And then they come home and they play the Sacramento Kings. Do you have them winning or losing to the Kings?
I do. There's just something about the Kings.
Which one? I said winning or losing. You said
winning.
Okay.
I mean, hey, I had one of the two, but I think in this scenario, they take down the Kings. There's just something there where it's like, I know we won the trade and Halliburton won't be there, but like to me, it's still there's a little bit of extra sprinkle of something on that game, and I think the Pacers take it even without Halliburton.
I think the Kings are just like, they're a team that could beat anybody any given night because they have like the most random talent on their roster, but it just doesn't always seem to fit well. I wonder if Indiana can take advantage of that. They could cause problems, but I think with Indiana not having Halliburton and being more of a physical team defensively, they might have a better chance trying to stop the scoring of Sacramento. I mean, do you remember last year when Obi Toppin and Pascal Siakam did the little gun dance thing like this right here? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
that was after Siakam hit the dagger against the Kings to give them the lead. I think Halliburton hit Siakam wide open for 3 and he buried it. So we'd love to see that happen once again with Toppin and Siakam. Now, let's move it forward here, Fachi. There is a 10-day break now because this is where the NBA's Cup schedule all falls into place. And we're moving forward to December 18th. They're at home versus the New York Knicks. You got a win or a loss.
I got a loss. I think the Knicks are going to be good, and I think they're going to be bloodthirsty for revenge. I think they're going to look at the Pacers where it doesn't matter who's on that court or who's on that roster. They're going to have something to prove, and I think the Knicks are going to be a good team this year. I know we didn't give them too much credit, but this is another one of those teams that if it ain't this year for the Knicks, who knows when it'll ever be.
Think about last year. I mean, the beginning of the season, the Pacers played the Knicks in New York on the second night of the season, and Halliburton had like 0 points, and it was a terrible game. The Knicks won by like 20, 30 points. I can't remember what it was. But now, this is the first time the Knicks will play the Pacers in December, and it's in Gainbridge Fieldhouse, the place they lost the Eastern Conference Championship to the Pacers in Game 6. So I think, like you said, they're going to be ready for a victory. I have the Knicks winning this game. Then the Pacers will go on the road for 2 games. They'll start things off in New Orleans. Do you have them winning in New Orleans?
I do. There's just something about the Pelicans that they got that stank on them where it's just like, what are you guys doing? Like ever since they traded that first round, that unprotected first round pick for, Derek Queen, it's just like, this team has no idea of where they're heading. So they're gonna try and do everything to win. I just don't think they're that good. So I think the Pacers are still good enough to get a win against New Orleans.
All right, after they play New Orleans, they're going to travel all the way up to Boston for the last game of this 2-game road trip. Do you have them beating the Boston Celtics on the road?
I don't. I think that they overlook Boston because they got the Bucks at home on a back-to-back. So I think they kind of like, let their guard down. Boston wins. They return back home. And then, that sets up the stage against the Bucks. But what do you got against Boston?
I actually have them beating the Celtics, to be honest with you. I think the Celtics and the Pacers will play a lot of close games this year. I think they could be a really fun 7-8 matchup potentially if that's how things play out. But I don't know. I feel like Boston's good, but their center and their front court depth does make me a little bit nervous for them. And I think Indiana can take advantage of that. I think the guard play will be obviously great with Brown. There's rumors now that Pritchard will be starting and they'll bring Simons off the bench. And then, of course, and Pritchard was great last year. Like, let's be honest. He really was. So good. And then Derek White's obviously really good. So, I mean, they're going to be tough, but I think that nobody really to guard Siakam could make things very, problematic for the Celtics trying to stop him. So I have the Pacers winning back-to-back games on the road. And then you mentioned it, second night of a back-to-back. Of course, Milwaukee gets the Pacers on the second night of a back-to-back after being on the road too. So what do you think? The day before Christmas Eve, 12/23, Pacers-Bucks. Who wins?
I think it's the Pacers. I think they take down the Bucks at home. Yeah, I think
I like it.
Yeah, I do. I think I'm willing to almost not throw the game against Boston, but like I think it's one of those where it's like, hey, if you lose that game, you better win the next one. And I think that there's just going to be something extra about playing the Bucks this year that, I mean, it was already meaningful in the past. This year just means a little bit more, and I think the crowd is just going to be a little bit more juiced up for this one, compared to any other game.
I think the crowd will be into it. They already have them beating the Bucks in the first matchup, so I think it'd be difficult to win 2 in a row.
It would
against Milwaukee without Tyrese, and them obviously having Giannis. I think it's going to be tough. I have the Pacers losing this game as much as I hate to say it. So,
all right. Hey, sometimes we can't win them all. We can't.
Yeah. So then they have 2 days off, and they start. They play their last game here of their little 2-game homestand. They're playing the Boston Celtics on 12/26 after Christmas. Do you think they win that game or lose that one?
It's a big old W. I think in this point, like, it's one of those where we talked about it. Boston, Indiana, they're in a similar spot. I think the game before, like, could the Pacers have won that game that I predicted them to lose against Boston? Absolutely. But I think they win this one. They're at home, and I think that they take care of business against the Celtics.
I actually had them losing this game, to be honest with you. Hey, and the only reason why is because I picked the other one as a win. I felt like they had to split these two, and this one made the most sense to me.
I definitely felt a split coming compared to, hey, you're not convincing enough to say they're going to win both of them. You're not feeling like they're going to lose, both. A split felt like, justified.
All right, now they've got a 2-game road trip down south against the Miami Heat and the Houston Rockets. 12/27 against the Heat. Do you have a win or a loss?
I got to win. I just don't know what to make of Miami. I just really don't. Now, all of a sudden, they're cheaping out, trading Haywood Highsmith just to cut some salary. Like, I thought that was a guy that they kind of valued and didn't want to include in like a Kevin Durant deal, which I thought was
he was mentioned as someone the Pacers might go after last offseason too.
I do remember that. So I thought that was like an interesting, when they made that move, I'm like, I don't know. I think for Miami right now, they're just kind of like stuck in the mud, probably overvaluing Andrew Wiggins. And, I think they're just going to kind of like continue to ride this out just a little bit longer. So I don't know their direction, but I think the Pacers' direction is moving on up. They're getting a win.
Yeah, I can just see Tyler Hero and Norman Powell going off in this game. So I have the Pacers losing this one, to be honest with you. It's going to be tough, but I've got the Pacers going on a 4-game losing streak here, Facci. I have them losing as well to the Houston Rockets after this because the Rockets are going to be so freaking good. And I don't love it, but I just feel like they're going to have to hit this wall where they start losing some multiple games in a row. I've had a few here and there, but like not a ton. So this is my big one where they lose 4 games in a row before they ended in the last game of the month, playing the Orlando Magic at home on that 3:30 tip-off for a New Year's Day game. I have them actually winning that game against the Magic. So curious your thoughts on the Rockets and the Magic.
I got them losing both. So I think
Okay.
they beat Miami. That's where they get that win. So I actually had the Pacers on a 3-game winning streak prior to then playing Houston. I just think that this Houston team is looking really good. Looking
Yeah.
really good. They're balanced. They're ready to win now while they have the young talent that could easily take steps forward, like Reed Shepard and Jabari Smith Jr. Could take a step forward with Kevin Durant and everybody else they already have there. And then Orlando, I'm just in a stage where I think that Orlando is on the come up. So I think Orlando beats the Pacers. I have Indiana in the month of December going 6-6. Therefore, I have their record at 17-15. What do you got?
Yeah, I had them going 5-7 this month, which now puts us back the same record, 17-15, heading into January. So me and you are in lockstep,
Yeah,
even though we've come at it from different angles.
totally different angles. There's many different ways to get to an end result. So I think with an 82 game schedule, remember, guys, there's only 80 games to predict here. We
Yeah.
don't know what the other 2 cup games are going to be in case anyone's saying, like, hey, their math's off. No. Look, we never claim to be math guys, but in this scenario, there's only 80 games to pick from. So that brings us into January. First game.
14 games. 14 games. And let me just say this really quick. They play every other day up until the 17th, where they play the second night of a back-to-back. So they're playing every other day, then they play back-to-back, then they go back to every other day until they finally get 2 days off on the 24th and the 25th. So these guys are playing a lot of basketball throughout the month of January. I mean, it's already filled up so much because you got like 15 games this month. You're going to probably play 14 in December, 14 now in January. It's just there's a lot of games and not a lot of days in between. So anyway, let's get to it, Facci. We'll just go quickly here. I feel like need to maybe pick the pace up a little bit here. So against the Spurs, what do you got at home?
Picking up the pace against the Spurs, I got a loss. I think that the Spurs are just, I think De'Aaron Fox there. They're built to take a nice step forward.
All right, I got the Pacers beating the Spurs. Give me a win. Let's go on the road now. They're playing Orlando again, a rematch from just 2 games ago. Do you have a win or a loss?
I got a loss, and Orlando's kind of starting to scare me a little bit. They are, because I think, like, come on, the Pacers are good enough to take a game or 2 off of Orlando, but like right now, I just feel like this is a team that's already good defensively that just got a lot better offensively.
I have them losing to Orlando as well. I just think it's going to be very tough. And then they're going to come home for 1 game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So now you're kind of seeing the home, road, home, that kind of thing. So they got Cleveland. Do you have them winning 1 game against Cleveland in January?
I actually do. This is my random, like, big win. There's going to be some of them on the season. They're hard to account for, but I just think that this is going to be one of those where it's like, hey, don't count the Pacers out. Just when I had them on losing a 4-game losing streak, I think they just come back, snap it against Cleveland, and it's my, like, out of nowhere type of big win.
Yeah, I have them actually beating the Cavs here too. I had them winning 1 of the 4 games against Cleveland this year, and this is the one that I had them winning. So
exactly, I just felt like you're good enough to take 1 game.
Yeah.
Last year they won 2, but like one of them was kind of a fluke, towards the end of the year. But anyway, next game at Charlotte. What do you got?
I got a loss. I think they're going to be surprised by Charlotte. I think Charlotte might be a little bit under the radar in terms of what their roster actually is. But I also just know the Pacers always struggle against the Hornets for whatever reason. Yeah. I had them beating the Hornets earlier. I feel like I had to pick a random loss against a bad team.
Yeah, look, we could easily go this direction. I'm not going to change it. I got the Pacers as a win, at Charlotte. But at the same point, yeah, you mentioned it. Like, some of our breaking points of the last few seasons have been losses to Charlotte. Like the 10-15 start, the time that LaMelo Ball all of a sudden D'd up Halliburton at the end of the game, and the ball like went off of Halliburton's foot or whatever it was. Like when he got that stop, I remember like that was like such a bad loss at the time, but it's going to happen eventually, but in this scenario, I don't see it yet. I got the Pacers winning. So
all right, so you got the Pacers winning now. They're going to come home for a 4-game homestand against Miami, Boston, Toronto, and New Orleans. Give me the results of those 4 games real quick.
All right, I got a win against Miami, which could totally go the other way because I already picked the Pacers over Miami. I got a loss at home against Boston.
Okay.
I got a win against Toronto, and I got a win at New Orleans right before.
Versus New Orleans, not at New Orleans.
Yes, this is a win against New Orleans right before we start a 5-game road trip.
I got a 4-game winning streak. They sweep the homestand, Facci. I think they win all 4 games.
Great.
They're going to start clicking and feeling good about themselves. And then womp, womp, womp. Here comes a gauntlet of a 5-game road trip here at Detroit, at Philly, at Boston, at OKC, at Atlanta. What do you have here in terms of these 5 games?
I got a loss at Detroit. I got a win at Philly. I got a loss at Boston. I got a loss at OKC, and I got a loss at Atlanta. So I got a 1-4 road trip. It's pretty gross. Could you sneak in another win here or there, maybe against like a Boston or maybe Atlanta? Maybe, but I'm not going to change what I went with. I had 1-4 on that road trip.
All right, Pachi. I have them losing their first 4 games of the road trip. I think they're going to lose at Detroit, lose at Philly, lose at Boston, and lose at OKC. If you remember, the Detroit game is the second night of a back-to-back.
Yep,
Depending on how healthy Philly is, you just never know.
And then
I think Boston will be tough. OKC is going to be almost like a guaranteed loss. I
think so.
That's going to be so difficult. And then what makes this interesting is their last game of that road trip is on the 26th, and they actually play OKC on the 23rd. I think they will fly home after the game, sleep in their own bed, and then fly out to Atlanta for that next game. I think they will come home after that 4-game road trip just because it's a lot of travel. That way they can get some time home, rest, get some relaxation, recoup at home, and then fly out to Atlanta for a 1 game and then come home for their 4-game homestand. I think that's what they're going to do. So that's why I have them beating Atlanta in that last game, because they're going to be able to come home and recoup after having a couple of days off.
Hey, recouping does you some wonders. Hopefully it works out in that scenario. We both have the Pacers 1-4 on that road trip. Different ways to get to the same result, but you come back home now for before you close out January. 2 home games right over there before the month ends against Chicago and Atlanta. What do you got?
I got 2 wins in a row, so we got 3 straight wins now.
2 wins in a row as well. I just think something about being home, especially coming off of that rough, stretch. This is when the boys, get it together a little bit. They close out January. In my record that I had 8-7, which gets them to 25-22 on the month. What do you got?
Yeah, I had them at 8-7 as well. I believe I have 8 wins. So was it 15 games?
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. I wrote the wrong thing down, but I have them.
So you would have the same record as me then, because we had the same record after the other month. So you would have them at 25-22 as well.
I think so, unless I did my math wrong. You know what I did? I actually have them at 9-6. That's what happened. I changed an Atlanta game, so I changed it. So it's 9-6 for me. I have them at 26-21.
Okay. All right. So there you go. Yeah. So you got them 1 game ahead of me. You got 26-21. I have 25-22 through the month of January. We both have this team, obviously, a couple of games above 500, which means that you should be in line for a top 6 seed, maybe like the 6th seed, I would say, somewhere in that territory. Hard to imagine the Pacers having, a top 4, maybe even 5, record in the East with that type of record. But I think you should be kind of avoiding the play-in at that time, but not enough breathing room. So to start the month of February, home versus Houston, what do you got?
I got another loss against Houston. I think Houston is going to be problematic for Indiana this year in terms of the matchup, and I've got the Rockets winning this game. But to close out that 4-game homestand, I have them beating the Utah Jazz.
That I do. So we got the same type of situation there. Loss versus Houston, win versus Utah.
All right. Now, Facci, they're traveling.
Rough stretch. 6-game road trip. I mean, we talked about a 5-game road trip where we just had this Pacers team at 1-4. Now we got a 6-game road trip against it's a mixed bag of teams. But
let's just put it in perspective for people so they can see this. Their last home game in February after the homestand will be on the 3rd of February. They will not play another home game until the 22nd.
Wow, that's almost the whole entire month. So
that's 3 weeks essentially, 19 days.
That's a long stretch. So in between, what we will say is I guess, maybe the trade deadline or something.
It's the All-Star break.
Yeah, exactly. So the All-Star break, because they play Brooklyn February 11th. Their next game is not until February 19th. So it's not like they're fully on the road for 3 weeks or anything like that. But in terms of home basketball, your home fans, yeah, they're not going to see the crowd for a long time.
All right, well, let's get into this 6-game road trip then, Facci, quickly. At Milwaukee, win or loss?
Loss, unfortunately.
Okay, I've got a win against Milwaukee.
Okay,
at Toronto.
Right. I got a loss. Here's where I have my scheduled Toronto Raptors loss that you had earlier. There's got to be one. There's got to be one in there. We're not juggernauts of the East anymore. I think that this is the game that they dropped to Toronto.
I have them losing this game as well, Facci, so we're in the same mindset there, but I actually had them losing at home to Toronto too. So Not looking great for the Pacers versus Toronto this year. I think they have them. I think I have them at 2-2 or 1-2. I can't remember how many times they play. But at New York after the game against Toronto, what do you have?
I got a loss. I just think it's going to be a tough stretch, like right in the middle of a road trip against a Knicks team that should be good.
Yeah, I have them. I have them losing to New York, and then on the second night of a back-to-back before the All-Star break, I have them beating the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, I have them beating the Brooklyn Nets. I do. Second night of a back-to-back, you get it done. The Nets, it's just I can't sell myself on like what would have to go wrong there. I think they get that win.
All right, let's keep it moving now to after the All-Star break. They're playing a back-to-back game against the Washington Wizards, both on the road. Do you have them winning both games, splitting both games, or losing both games?
Actually, have them splitting, which
Same.
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overlooking things. Like, could the Wizards have traded Middleton and CJ McCollum by then and just been like so bad? Probably, but like I just think it's going to be like one of those where you win one, you lose one. I had them winning the first one, they lose that second game, and finally they head back home.
That's exactly what I had. I had them winning the first one, losing the second one, just because it's hard to beat a team twice in a row.
It is. And like, honestly, we saw this Pacers team, if you remember the last game before the All-Star break last year, where it took like such a heroic effort to come back against the Wizards, because sometimes you've just been on the road for so long that you're just like, man, if we lose one, it is what it is. Like, let's just get back home. And I think in this scenario, finally the Pacers just kind of drop a game, and all of a sudden they're like, all right, we're heading back home now for like a good, almost 2 weeks.
Now they're going to head home, Facci, for a 4-game homestand, but only 3 games in the month of February before we get to March.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got Dallas, Philly, and Charlotte for the final games in February. What do you have there for those 3 games?
I got them beating Dallas, losing to Philly, and beating Charlotte.
Okay. Me and you are flipped on the Dallas-Philly game. I have them losing to Dallas, beating Philly, and beating Charlotte.
And they totally could. That Dallas game could go either way. I had them beating Philly last time around, so that's why I have this as a loss. I think that's how it was. But with Philly, like, you just never know. They're hard to predict. Like, there's a scenario where maybe they just totally, once again, are what they were last year. Embiid can't stay healthy, like this, that. But like for now, I still think that they could be good enough where I had the Pacers winning earlier. I had them losing this one. I just don't know when to pick a Charlotte loss. That could happen. So I have them beating Dallas, losing to Philly, beating Charlotte. So they close
for the month of February
with a 5-6 record overall. I have them at 30-28, still above 500, but just a tough month.
Okay, I have them going 6-5.
Okay,
and now they're 32-26 according to my prediction. So I'm 2 games up on you. In the
2 games up, 32-26. I think you'd have to be thrilled if you're the Pacers, and I'd actually be curious to see like where Indiana was at last year at that time, because might not have been that far off, and I think that would be a big success for the Pacers.
All right, let's get into the gauntlet of March, because the Pacers are going to have a home game before they play 4 road games, and they got it's a pretty even mix, but it's a very tough schedule with the opponents, Facci. So let's get into it. Finish out that 4-game homestand. Start the month of March off against Memphis. Do you have a win or a loss?
I do have a win. Maybe I'm sleeping on Memphis because I already have us beaten Memphis like 1 or 2 earlier times. So it's like, maybe they lose this game, but I just looked at that like road trip coming up, and I'm like, you got to get one at home. You got to get one. So that's why I hadn't beaten Memphis.
Well, it's kind of weird because they play Memphis on like October 25th, and they don't play them again until March. So their team could look drastically different. We don't really know. And I think Jay Huff will still be a Pacer, and Jay Huff's going to get his revenge on both games. So cold dish of revenge, baby.
I could easily see myself sending out that text like in all caps, like Jay Huff revenge game, question mark, exclamation point, like all this. I could see that coming right now from a mile away. So now a 4-game road trip starts. You have Clippers, Lakers, Portland, Kings. What are you thinking?
I think they're going to go 2-2 on the road trip. They're going to go 500. I have them losing to the Clippers, shocking Luka and the Lakers.
Okay.
Then losing to Portland because I feel like they can't ever beat Portland. And then they're going to sweep Sacramento, head home to play Phoenix. And I think they go 2-2 on the road trip. What do you got?
So I got them losing to the Clippers. I got them losing to the Lakers. I'm with you on that Portland loss. There's something about us versus Portland where it's just like it just doesn't work in our favor. Then I got them beating the Kings. So I have them going 1-3 on that 4-game road trip.
Okay. Well, then they're coming home for 2 games, Facci, against Phoenix and New York. What do you have there?
So they're back-to-back games. So I have them beating Phoenix and then losing to the Knicks on a back-to-back.
All right, so I'm pretty notorious about giving a team a loss after they come home from a road trip. So I have them losing to Phoenix. They already beat them earlier, but then I have them shocking the Knicks and beating the Knicks at home on 3-13.
Hey, that'd be great. And it like pains me to like questionably not have the Pacers beating the Knicks at all. Like, it just stinks because like, if Halliburton's there, all of a sudden it's like it's one of our most favorite rivalries. So yeah, I have those wins and losses flip flop. Having beating Phoenix, losing to the Knicks. Then they go on a 2-game road trip. They play the Bucks. And then they play the Knicks once again, and it's another type of scenario. Well, we'll get to it afterwards. But what do you got first with the Bucks?
I got them losing to the Bucks. I think they're going to lose on the road. They're going to split it on the road and split at home. I think they're going to go 1-1 at home and 1-1 on the road. They're going to go 2-2 against Milwaukee this year.
So yeah, I have them going 2-2 against Milwaukee as well. But the other time, this is what I also is frustrating. They play the Knicks on another back-to-back. So that's the scenario.
They're
so
on the front end of this one.
Yes, this is the front end. So they play the Knicks and then they play Portland. I have a loss against the Knicks, as well. So I guess at this point I might have the Pacers, unfortunately, getting swept by the Knicks. Doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. And then I have them beating Portland when they return home.
Okay, so I actually have them losing to Portland because it's the second night of a back-to-back. You're coming home from New York. Portland's just a tough team that could be waiting there for you. I was like, I don't like picking Portland to beat them both games this year, but I think Portland's gotten better. They obviously got Drew Holiday. Who else? They got Damian Lillard's back. Well, I don't think he'll be healthy yet.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play. So it's like you can make an argument that maybe they just got Drew Holiday, but like maybe like guys like Tumani Kamara take a step forward. Maybe Shaden Sharp. Like maybe they have some of those
Scoot Henderson
guys. Maybe. We'll see what happens with them. But, he's definitely young enough to be able to still take a step forward. So I have them beating Portland mostly because I had them losing that previous game to Portland.
Yeah, that makes sense. I had them losing 3 in a row here. Milwaukee, New York, and Portland. I have them losing all those. So that's kind of tough.
Let's just real quick, let's just talk about how, like, first you have that 4-game road trip. You come home for 2 games. You're on the road for 2 games. You come home for 1 game, and then you're on the road for 2 more games. So it is very road heavy here. 8 of 11 games are on the road during this stretch.
Yeah, it's tough. And those 2 games on the road are not easy. You're traveling to San Antonio, and then you're playing Orlando after that. So do you have them beating San Antonio or Orlando?
I don't. I have them losing to both teams. I think the Spurs are just like I said. I like the direction that they're going, and the same thing with Orlando. Like maybe we're wrong about Orlando. Maybe we're overrating them in the month of August. But for right now, I just feel like going to Orlando and it's going to be pretty tough. I have 2 L's right there.
I have them beating San Antonio because they have 3 days off in between their previous game and that one, or 2 days off between games. So I think that does help before they travel. They can focus a little bit on the Spurs, have a day of practice. Then they do have Orlando. I have them losing that game. So I have them actually sweeping the Spurs this year, which is kind of crazy. But
that's kind of crazy. But we'll see.
Is it really, though? Because I think it's just the way the schedule kind of shakes out.
Yeah, we'll find out. I will say, I didn't have enough time to factor in like 3 days off here, like this, that. But like I tried to factor in.
Just put the dates down.
No, it's great. It's good. I mean, hey, if I had more time, that would have been perfect. But I still think that the Spurs are a good enough team that could give the Pacers trouble. I mean, look, the Pacers beat the Spurs last year. They definitely did. I mean, there was one game that went really bad. There was another game that went really good. But it's just hard for me to predict right now in August.
They were in Paris, France.
Yeah, so, different type of situation. But I think that in this scenario, I have the Spurs just sweeping the Pacers, and for Orlando,
I have them sweeping the Spurs. That's so funny.
Yeah, I know. Hey, look, I respect it. I love to be on your end of things. I hope that they sweep the Spurs. So next, you're coming home for 3 straight games to close out the month of March. So in this scenario, you got the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Miami Heat. What do you got?
I got them losing to the Lakers because they beat the Lakers on the road in my previous predictions. I have them actually beating the Clippers at home. And then I have them beating the Miami Heat, which puts me at 7-8 for the month and 39-34 overall.
Okay. I have them beating the Lakers. I had the opposite of you. You had them beating the Lakers previously. I think the Pacers are good enough to beat the Lakers. They usually are good enough to take a game off them, year after year. Should have won it last year. Fortunately, that LeBron game winner, we don't need to dig up old wounds. But
Jarris would have boxed out. Dang it.
I know.
Carlisle would have called a timeout, got Tyrese back in the game. Oh, man, that
mean,
game was so good.
Makes me sick. I mean, there was opportunities. I think they beat the Clippers in this scenario. I think they do. I had the Clippers winning earlier. Clippers are an old team. They're old. Who knows who's even playing this game? And then I have them losing to Miami just because I had the Pacers already beating Miami twice. I just feel like, Miami's good enough to get you here or there. So I have the Pacers finishing up March at 6-9, which actually that has the record at 36-37 right now. So we have officially dipped below 500.
And I have them at 39-34. So we are definitely a little bit different here in terms of how we see this season playing out. But now the month of April, it does get a little bit lighter. They have 3 games on the road, but they're not the most incredibly tough opponents. It's the 3 C's in the Eastern Conference: Chicago, Charlotte, Cleveland. What do you got there, Foch?
I got them beating Chicago, beating Charlotte, and losing to Cleveland.
Okay, I've got them losing to Chicago on the road, beating Charlotte, and then losing to Cleveland.
Okay, all right. So I'm a little bit higher. Now we're down the stretch, backs against the wall. You're coming home for 1 game sandwiched in between 4 road games. You're playing the Minnesota Timberwolves. What do you got?
So I usually say I'm not going to pick a road game or a home game after they've had a road trip, but the road trip is Eastern Conference, so I don't feel like it's that difficult in terms of the amount of travel. They haven't gone that far. And I feel like they play Minnesota pretty well. So I actually have them beating Minnesota to kind of get a surprise win in April. And I have them winning against Minnesota. What do you have there?
I have them losing Minnesota. I'd love to see us beat them, but for right now, they're just superior on paper. So now you're at Brooklyn. You're at Brooklyn. What do you got?
I got them beating Brooklyn. I don't think they're going to lose to Brooklyn this year. I think Brooklyn will probably win 8 games.
They're going to be so bad. They're going to be so
them in
bad.
Utah.
I mean, yeah, both those teams are like begging, saying, please give us the number 1 pick already. We'll do anything. And they're going to have cap space, everything. They're not going to do anything to alter that. Now you return home for the final 2 games of the regular season against the Philadelphia 76ers and the Detroit Pistons. What do you got in those 2 games?
Well, I have them splitting here. I have them losing to Philly. But the last game of the season, I think they're going to beat Detroit because I think Detroit's going to have their seed locked up and not play everybody. So I have them beating Detroit.
All right. I have them winning both games. This gets the Pacers to 41-39 on my accounts. That's them finishing strong. Like I said, going into April with 1 game below 500, I think that they finish April strong enough to be 2 games above 500. We don't know what's happening with the cup games. So there's a scenario. Could the Pacers end up, in my opinion, getting to like 43 wins? It's a possibility. Could they get so anywhere between 41 to 43 wins, depending on how those cup games play out? For reference, Vegas has the Pacers right now at about 38.5 wins. So I have the Pacers hitting the over, getting a couple games above, but it sounds like the record is still a little bit worse than yours. What would you have them at?
Yeah, I had them at 43-37. So you were 6 games above 500 with the 2 cup games that haven't been added in, which I would probably split those if I'm just guessing. Put them around 44-38. Maybe I give them both losses depending on who they're playing, 43-39. But I feel like anywhere from the 42 to 44 range feels about right to me. So that's why I said 43.
Range. Yep. We're right in the same range. I think the Pacers definitely, there's a scenario where they could totally finish at 42-40, something like that. Maybe they could get to 43 wins. And I think, like, I don't want to say you got to be happy with that, but like, guys, that's really solid if you're removing, an elite point guard and our starting center, from this team. I think that there is enough. And look, everything that we're going off of is expected that Nembhard's the guy. Like, he's able to really take a step forward. Same thing with Mathurin. Those two really do, like, to take a solid leap. And then you're hoping that everyone else can just bring just a little bit more. Nesmith can give you more. Obi can give you more. Jarris can give you more. Siakam is who he's been, if not scoring a little bit more in a bigger role. So I think the Pacers have what it takes to still be competing potentially for a 6th seed. Like, I really do think 6th seed could be, in line. And we've seen at times, like, it's all over the place. Like, the Pacers last year at 50 wins got them the 4th seed. 2 seasons before that, 50 wins got you the 2 seed. overall in the East. So 43 wins I see in line with hopefully the 6th, if not probably like the 7th seed.
Honestly, with how a lot of these teams are assembled right now, Facci, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of teams jumbled up around that 43 to 47 win range. I don't think you're going to see a lot of teams kind of separate themselves. I think people keep saying the Cavs and the Knicks. I wouldn't be surprised if Orlando separates themselves and gets closer to 50 wins this year, just based on how their schedule potentially plays out. But how if their roster clicks with the Desmond Bain addition and who did they get as their backup point guard? I'm forgetting right now.
Tyus Jones.
That's right. Yeah, yep. I was like, I know it's a Memphis backup, but I couldn't think of his name. I think with that addition as well, they're going to be better than people probably realize. They're a team that could potentially, in my opinion, finish top 2 in the Eastern Conference and surprise one of New York or Cleveland. So we'll just kind of have to keep that close and just see what happens. But like, I think Atlanta is such a wild card. I think Milwaukee's a wild card, which people are kind of counting them above the Pacers. I think Detroit, they might be a lock to kind of finish in the 4th spot, but I think so many people are like super high on Detroit. And if I think about their offseason moves, if I'm being honest, I think they regressed.
Malik Beasley was like, as it relates to 3-point shooters, was one of the very best 3-point shooters in the league last year. You're taking him off the roster, and you're also taking Tim Hardaway Jr., who, you could say, Tim Hardaway Jr., he's a good 3-point shooter. That's a lot of 3-point shooting that has come off of that team. So I think that they're still very good, but like they could totally be in that like anywhere between 4 to 6. I think they could totally be in that range. And, if they finish as the 6th seed, that's actually not really growth. It's just more showing they're not a fluke.
Well, here's what I'll say too, and this might sound like a bit of a hot take because we didn't really factor him in with the Kings roster, but I think Dennis Schroeder leaving is going to be huge because Dennis Schroeder was very, very good for Detroit once he joined their team.
Yep. Like
massive. And obviously Jaden Ivey wasn't out there, so you're hoping Jaden Ivey can kind of fill that void. But Jaden Ivey to me is not the level of defender that a Dennis Schroeder is. Dennis Schroeder is just a very savvy veteran guard that's been around the league for a while, really knows how to do things. Tim Hardaway Jr., he had a fine season. I'm not really worried about that. But the difference between Malik Beasley and Duncan Robinson is Malik Beasley gives you at least something defensively. Duncan Robinson might be one of the worst defenders I've seen in the entire league. So I understand like the Michigan tie there with him and Karras going back to Detroit. It's cool, whatever. But I kind of feel like their moves are a little bit, lateral. Maybe they digress a little bit, and maybe Cade and Jaden and Nassar take a step forward, and that's kind of where they get better. But I don't know. Like I'm not as high on what their offseason was. I know that they kind of made do with what they had to make happen because of all the guys that like left. But no, I don't love their roster as much as maybe the other analysts do. But I still think they're going to be tough. Don't get me wrong. But I just feel like there's so many question marks. A lot of these teams here in the mix that it wouldn't shock me if a lot of teams are in that same range.
No, totally. I mean, look, and we've seen time and time again that like, if the Pacers could be hanging around a little bit above 500, there could be a scenario where they're like 2 games out of the 3 seed, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, oh my God, should the Pacers make a move at the deadline to, they still have the ability to make a trade and use the Tyrese Halliburton disabled, player exception, so like there's options that they have if the Pacers are within striking distance to be able to make a move. I think Indiana likes optionality, and I think they want to get a read at, like, we have heard Chad say to us in the past, we just want to see what this team looks like in January. That's kind of usually like the measuring stick of like, what do you look like going into the next calendar year, and then evaluate should you be buyers or anything of the sort. So maybe if the Pacers are, in the mix of things, maybe they do look to make a move to bring someone in on like an expiring contract or anything of the sort that can help them now. But for right now, there's still too much that's unknown. But I think that you and I both laid it out that we are higher on this team than what the media is giving them credit for. We still think there's enough firepower to be an above 500 team, and that goes a long way when you take an all NBA player of the last 2 years off of this roster and your starting center.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be really fun to watch. I just believe so much in this coaching staff, the roster they've put together. I think they're going to be able to be competitive enough. I think you're going to see guys really take a step forward like Mathurin and Nembhard and Siakam, raise their game to another level. Aaron Nesmith, another guy that I think under the radar, not getting enough credit. He's going to take a step forward. And then Obi Toppin. I mean, he's been adding a lot of weight. We've seen a lot of workout videos of him. Like there was a video of him and Michael Beasley doing some stuff. He's been doing some MMA stuff with James Johnson.
Always been a Beasley guy. Always.
Oh, really?
big time.
I wouldn't brag about that.
Now I'm gonna brag. I believe that Michael Beasley is one of the more like what if scenarios.
Yeah,
I just
maybe.
he always lacked it up here, but like the skill set was just so elite. His season at Kansas State was one of the craziest college seasons I've seen. That guy dominated. But anyway, I just think that what I want is from everybody listening to this, drop the comments in YouTube of what you have the Pacers record, because I think we're going to get a lot, hopefully maybe a lot of records somewhat around the same, but there might be some people that are like, you're sleeping on this team, they're higher, or some people that are like, you guys are crazy. There's no way this team's going to be above 500. I would love to see where you and I land, because like we mentioned, historically the last few years, we've been relatively close within about a game or two. So I think this was the harder year to predict, where maybe we're totally off or maybe we're spot on.
Maybe we are. We'll see what happens. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, setting the pace. Excuse me. If you do listen to this video on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, let people know about this video, because if you like it, that does help other people find the video more frequently when they search an Indiana Pacers podcast on YouTube. So that would help us out a lot. If you're listening to this on the audio side of things, haven't asked in a while, but please leave us a 5-star rating and review. It does mean a lot. If you haven't already subscribed or follow the show, please do that as well. And look, tell a friend. It would be great for them to find out about this Pacers podcast if they haven't already. Tell your mom, tell your dad, and tell them, hey, I know Alex and Mike. They're really fun guys. Facci's got the pep in the step. Alex is always giving Facci a hard time, sometimes too hard of a time, but I've had people email me say, hey, take it easy on Facci, man. You got to give him a little bit of a break here. He's got 2 kids, under 2. Like, give him a break. So if you feel bad for Facci, leave us a 5-star rating and review as well. So with that being said, we appreciate you all, Pacer Nation. You can follow us on Twitter at AlexGoldenNBA and then _FACCI. And we will talk to you all tomorrow. Peace out, Pacer Nation. Facci, hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers.
We keep scoring, we don't need to stop. New episodes, weekly drops. This your #1 podcast, sweeping every team, we gon' need a mop. Setting the pace with Alex and Facci, Alex and Facci, Alex and Alex. Setting the pace with Alex and Facci, Alex and Facci, Alex and Alex. Setting the pace with Alex and Facci, Alex and Facci, Alex and Alex. Setting the pace with Alex and Facci, Alex and Facci, Alex and Alex.